past couple years have brought us some of the most exciting cross-country bikes we've ever seen, and we have a new entry today. This is the Salsa Spearfish. It was kind of a traditional cross-country bike for the longest time, but the newest generation here is significantly more progressive. The geometry, the suspension feel, even the travel on tap, it's right up there with all the most competitive cross-country bikes right now. But it has its own unique feel, some special details to it, so I'm going to run you through all of those, including my ride impressions and my long-term thoughts over the course of this video. And then I'll be back here to talk about my little wrap-up thoughts. But for now, I'm going to send it to another version of me somewhere else in the world to talk about the geometry. Hello, Bike Ride Dario here to run you through some of the geometry details on the new Spearfish. Starting off, we've got the head angle. This puppy's got a 66-degree head tube angle, a 77-degree seat tube angle, and that is adjustable using a small flip chip contained here. This is the low position right now that I have it in. If you pop it into the high position, it's 0.3 degrees steeper seat and head angle. All of the sizes of the bike have a 430 mil chainstay, 431 depending on your high-low setting. BB drop is 35 mil in low, and I would say the reaches are fairly long per size. This is a size large. Reach is right around 490 millimeters. Stack heights are normal for a cross-country bike, in the kind of low 620s. And I'd say overall it is a more upright fit than you'd expect of a cross-country bike, primarily thanks to the seat angle here. That can be adjusted obviously with the high-low setting, and with little things like how you set up your saddle and your cockpit and all that jazz. But overall it is a very modern bike. These are numbers that we would see on an enduro bike only a few years ago, and for it to be on a 120 front and rear cross-country marathon bike is pretty cool. I like where we're heading with cross-country bikes right now. I think they are capable beyond what you'd expect of a short travel race machine, and a big part of that is thanks to the geometry. It's a testament to the fact that the right angles and lengths on things can make a huge difference. A beautiful day for a bike ride, and I am out here on the Salsa Spearfish. The seat angle being so steep on this bike puts you in a more upright position than you're used to on a, say, more traditional cross-country bike. In, fast-paced technical climbing where, a lot of cross-country races are made, bike's great. Like, you put down power, feels responsive as you'd want it to, but the rear wheel grip is quite good. The steep seat angle for me is awesome. I think some people might feel like it's, I don't know, maybe too high up the butt for really technical stuff. But if you're used to climbing longer travel bikes, it feels natural and pretty sweet. Like, you can still always drop the seat a centimeter just to get a bit of extra clearance if you want, but for me it feels natural to put power down with a steeper, more upright body position. I would say the suspension feel on this is surprisingly good. Okay, there. It's supportive where you want it to be, primarily off the top, without feeling like it's taking away too much from the grip. Both in climbing and descending situations, it doesn't feel like you have to break through some funky top end of travel to get into the meatier part of the stroke. All right, riding more like trail bike style trails on the Spearfish does not feel ridiculous, like, at all. you know, in some circumstances you're aware you're on a cross-country bike, but in a lot of ways it's a lovely experience. Like, XC bikes are really lively in this. Oh, hey there. Sorry. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. You know, you can push into the bike, get a lot of energy back, kind of take some weird lines, and it's actually forgiving. You know, but the handling is sharp. That said, if you're riding more like flatter terrain where speed of handling and, you know, like a rewarding platform is what you're looking for, then this is pretty sick. You know, XC bike pretty much always has a lot of pop. That's the case here, as you'd expect. The difference is in, well, hits like that, where it actually uses a lot of travel without feeling too scary or heinous. Like, I don't know, oftentimes if you're pushing an XC bike into the end of its stroke, it's letting you know that it's not happy. This guy's like a little more down to the clown. And it's not just the paint job, it's exciting and resilient. You know, because I've been riding it like this, I've had some of those bolts work loose, but like a bit of maintenance and it's been trucking along. And I am quite happy. Hello again, slightly sweatier trail Dario. Out here to run you through some of the frame details and components and the general livability of the Spearfish. As I've had it for a little while now, I figure I'd talk about some of those long-term ownership things to keep an eye on. First, linkage bolts. There's a lot packaged right here in this little link layout, and I have had these bolts inside the yoke come loose a couple times. Annoyingly, they're really hard to get to unless you drop the shock, mainly this bolt, and then use a long-handled 5mm to get in there, but not really multi-tool tightenable or super quick access. The other detail is the split pivot design. You know, that does require a large wrench on the other side to tighten. It shouldn't come loose too much. Hopefully it comes with some Loctite, but something to keep an eye on and not really an easy trailside fix if you do need it. Now this build comes with GX transmission, the new Motive brakes, and some Fox suspension. And on all fronts, I've been super happy. Fox 34 SL, I already touched on in a first ride, but it has been excellent on this bike. This bike came with the Grip X damper, which I am actually a big fan of on this kind of platform and chassis. It feels undergunned for trail bikes, but for cross-country purposes, it's actually great. And same goes for the Float SL shock. Haven't had to do too much there. I've noticed that you can set it up with a pretty wide variety of sags. I think it's thanks mostly to the suspension kinematic on the bike, but I've been liking it either at like a lower sag number with less compression or higher sag with a lot of compression, and that's adjustable via this little bat wing right here. So worth playing with for yourself. Other things, the wheel set is a W2B KOM light, a nice aluminum wheel set with kind of no-name hubs. Hopefully those hold up long term, but I'd say the rims and the general feel of the wheels is nice. Like, they have some good comfort, keeps this bike feeling lively without weighing it down too much. Those are wrapped in these new Terravale Camrock tires. I can't say I love these. The Terravale rubber generally feels a bit plasticky to me, and even though we're getting into springtime here, it's, I don't know, they're not holding up quite as well as you'd hope compared to like even the like T7 stuff from Specialized or like a Max Terra. It feels like it's a fast option for people in the desert, or for high summer it would be pretty solid, but it's not my top choice. That said, like, they do roll nice and quickly, and as a rear especially, it feels like it matches the nature of the bike pretty well. It comes with a nice long 170 dropper in the large and XL sizes, and I don't know, I don't feel much need to add more, though thanks to the long insertion I actually could. Final thing, SRAM motive brakes. These are the bronze ones, and I've given them a little bit of love to touch them up just because I ended up shortening the hoses, but one bleed and they feel great. Like, they've not really required much, I don't know, much maintenance beyond that. The one annoying thing is, because of the way that the hose is routed, they do rub on your bars, so if you're running carbon bars, that's something to keep an eye on. As you can see here, I am running a slightly higher bar than stock, but that's just for personal fit reasons. So that's that. Back to not this version of me, somewhere else. As I touched on in the descending portion, this is like quite comfortable on trail bike trails, but it does let you know that it's a cross-country bike. So I think very easily you could turn the Spearfish into something that is like a light trail bike. You know, the stability errs on the cross-country side of things, and that mostly I think comes from the very short rear end. It like really wants to whip around and cut turns as opposed to carry speed and arc like the fastest line through corners. It's more about liveliness and like quick direction change in that sense, but still, like the feel of the suspension, the front end geometry, they yield a really nice feel. Talking quickly about comparisons, there are a lot of cool cross-country bikes right now. The two that come to mind in comparison to the Spearfish are the Specialized Epic 8 and the Trek Top Fuel. Now, the Top Fuel can be a longer travel bike than this, and as a result can feel a bit more like a trail bike, but you can also set it up more in the cross-country vein. The geometry is a bit more progressive in terms of how it scales per size, and just in the overall cut of the angles. It has a slacker head angle. It also has a slacker seat angle though. So for people who like a more modern pedaling geometry, the Spearfish is going to be the choice. But compared to the Epic 8, which I still think is one of the more impressive cross-country bikes I've ever ridden, the Spearfish is competitive. Like, there are elements of each that I prefer in some circumstances, and I haven't had the opportunity to ride them back to back, so it's hard to say based on memory. But I remember the Epic being more composed in terms of how it carries itself at speed. I think the suspension feel is similar between the two. I would probably give points to the Salsa for like overall composure of suspension and the amount of grip that it can generate without feeling wallowy. The Epic is supportive, but I think because of the flex stay setup on the rear suspension is like a little bit pokier feeling. It's not quite as trail bikey as the Spearfish is. So strokes for folks. It's not going to be the lightest bike out there for people who want that, but for me, it feels like a really nice cross-country to light trail bike if that's what you're looking for. Now, I have more cohesive and easy to follow thoughts up on my article on the website. You can head there for those, but for now, this is me signing off, and probably gonna go ride this again. I like this bike, so I'm gonna go do that. Peace.